welcome back to another episode of Slightly Burnt Toast.
It's like hella deja vu. We've been messing up a lot, so this episode's gonna start a little bit repetitively for us, but
honestly,
brand new for everyone else.
Yeah, you guys, we are filming this for the third time because first, the camera stopped recording and we didn't know, and then second, our audio stopped recording and we didn't know. So
okay, at least the second time we didn't go too far deep into it.
No, good thing you caught it actually. Thank you, because that would have really sucked.
I'm just checking. Right? Yeah, no, it's good.
Yeah, nothing is worse than filming maybe like 40 minutes of
and then realizing that it's gone.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's okay. We got it. Okay, camera 1, camera 2.
Yeah, recording. Okay. All right. So I don't even know what we're. Oh, okay. Yeah. So I mean, I know what we're gonna talk about today, which was like some like stuff that I've been reading online, which I thought would be fun to talk about. And I think it's just like the world right now is like a very chaotic place, and we're talking about, okay, well, like job security is pretty much nil, right? Like companies are like money over people.
Yeah.
So I think I kind of went into this like weird rabbit hole. It's just like, what do you do in this like environment? But then I got into a topic about just like, well, what about like pet peeves in the workplace, and like other different topics about the workplace.
So what are your pet peeves in the workplace?
I mean, there's a few, but I feel like it's generic across a lot of people.
I mean, I can tell you my pet peeves at home.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we can start there. Yeah, just air your frustrations, man. Like,
I feel like the podcast is kind of like a little bit of a therapy, like couples therapy for us.
Yeah. Okay, let's not turn it into that like weird table thing that like Jada Smith does. Like
Red Table Talk. You hate that. He hates it.
I think everybody should hate it, okay? Like that is not healthy for the kids.
You know what? Like, no, it's not. I totally agree. If you watch Red Table Talk like I did, I used to love it because I thought that it was a very fun kind of conversation between different generations, right? I think she had her mom, sometimes Will Smith would be on it, and their kids. But then it got really weird because they started talking about their sex life and their relationships and getting cheated on and like affairs. And I'm like, if I was your child, I would not want to sit through this while being filmed, while you air out your frustrations about your relationship.
Like, I feel like as a parent, there's certain things that you should have in discussion elsewhere, even away from the kids. Like, you don't need to go and be like, hey, we had an affair, so now we're like divorcing.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, like,
or like your mom cheated on me with her fitness trainer.
Yeah, okay. I don't know. Is that like what happened? Either way, it's just like a topic that doesn't need to happen in the public eye.
Yeah. I think there was like one really uncomfortable episode that was the episode where I just decided never to watch Red Table Talk ever again. I think he was sharing way too much about how she was making him feel emasculated in their marriage, and like it's like such an uncomfortable situation. He was crying. And I'm like, oh, this is weird. I'm going to stop watching this.
Like,
now.
I'm all for guys being emotional and, like, being vulnerable in that extent. But it's like, that you should just go to therapist.
Oh, like, yeah, no. Rewind. I'm totally okay with men sharing their emotions. But like you said, like, behind closed doors with your significant other, maybe not with your kids for the world to see, you know?
Yeah. That reminds me of this thing. So there's like a video of this guy who is working in his yard, and he's got this like spool of wire. And if you know, like usually these like wires, you buy them in like the big batch, and unless you're working with it every day, it's gonna last forever. So
yeah,
this guy is probably in his like 50s or like late 40s or something, and he's sitting in the backyard just kind of looking at this spool of wire, and he's just like looking kind of like down, and just like he's having a moment. And his wife is like walking in with like the video recording, being like, oh, like, honey, like, are you okay? Like, you look really sad. Like, are you okay? Is something wrong? And the guy was just like, like, I bought this spool of wire like 30 years ago, and it used to be like this big, and now it's just like, it's like this small now. And I'm just thinking about how my life is kind of like this, right? He's talking about, oh, like 30 years ago I had this much, and now like over the years like because it got used up, like there's only this much left, and it's just like a representation of his life is probably what is going through his mind. And the wife was just like, oh, sorry to hear that. You're wearing like a hat of like a sports team that, you know, you don't usually support. So I thought there was something like really important that you were going through. And the guy was just like, you know, like I'm not like having this conversation. Like, and I think that was just something where I was like, oh, like that was quite dismissive because you could like very clearly tell that he was having a moment.
Yeah.
But it's just like, dude, I'm not 50 something obviously, but like if I was in that situation,
yeah,
there's definitely stuff around the apartment here where I'm like, oh, I've had this since I was like 18.
Yeah.
And you would look at it and be like, holy shit, like where have the years gone kind of deal, right? Like it's been 15 years already.
Right. So he was obviously having an emotional moment. And, well, I mean, obviously that was a snippet shared on social media, so we don't really know the full extent of what their relationship could be fake. But, like I'm all for men sharing their emotions, right? Just like whatever you're comfortable with. I tell Albert all the time, like, you know, like I would love to have in-depth like emotional conversations with you so we can connect. And I know just like socially, I guess now it's getting better, but socially in the past, like men don't really feel as comfortable to share what they feel or how they think, or like men don't cry, right? I think that is not the healthiest construct. But I mean, I think it's good that we are starting to see more videos, I guess, circulated online where men do show more emotion. And I think, I guess, if the younger generation sees that, they would feel more comfortable doing that too.
I don't know. I feel like we're in a weird spot where I don't know if I agree. I feel like we're actually retracting a little bit and going backwards.
Yeah.
But that, I don't know. That could just be me. I'm not an expert in like this area of psychology and sociology and stuff like that.
No.
But you know, we're supposed to be talking about pet peeves right now.
I know we always go on this tangent because we like talking to each other, right? Yes. Anyway, you look confused, but we do enjoy talking to each other, but we do go on tangents quite a bit. But thank you for bringing me back.
Speaking of,
we're going on a tangent again.
One of my workplace pet peeves is when a discussion just like derails off the main topic and goes somewhere else.
But you're like this all the time.
No. Okay. I don't know how we got here, actually. You were going to talk about your pet peeves in the house.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to talk about pet peeves in the house because Albert just did this as well. He likes to shed his clothes randomly, like a snake. I fucking hate snakes. Sorry for the profanity, but he just like, when he's changing out of his clothes, he just like leaves it on the ground, even though he's 3 steps away from a hanger, and he just like laughs and walks away.
Okay,
and I'm like, dude, sometimes you do. You're like, hey, and then you like walk away and leave your shit everywhere. And I'm like, just pick it up, walk 3 steps and hang it up behind the door. Like, how hard is that?
Yeah, I mean, it's like that time, or almost every time, when you take the last little bit out of the water jug and you're like going into sibling mode where I'll leave a little bit so that the last person to take that water has to fill it up. And me just walking by is always like, well, fuck, like I want water but I can't have any because there's like a drop left. And I guess that was a good enough argument that I had to fill it up. So
let me just say that I do fill up the water filter very frequently. You just happen to see it when it's not filled.
That makes no sense.
I fill up the water jug. Okay, you just happen to not see when I'm doing these things.
No, okay. So what I'm saying is it's okay if you fill up the water jug, but you should fill it up every time if there's not much left.
Well, maybe I'm bringing you a glass of water and then I forget that I left the water jug and I just didn't fill it up. How about you pick up your stuff when you leave it on the ground?
Let's just agree that we're 2 flawed people living together.
But to be fair, I guess that could also be a pet peeve at work because honestly, like I'm quite an organized person. I like to be organized in a lot of aspects of my life. Like how I think about life, how I structure my day, how I work. I do like organization and a little bit of chaos. So like I call it like an organized chaos. But if I was in the workplace, which I have been until like last year, I guess if someone just left all their gear randomly around the office and it's just really cluttered, I would get really irritated as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, so I used to work at McDonald's in my like teenage years, as like a part-time job, right? And one of the worst things was just like there's a specific place where it's supposed to go so that when someone else wants to use it, they know where to go looking for it.
Yeah.
But then someone just puts it somewhere else, and you're just like, where
Like-
is it? You're just like, I can't flip these burgers because someone took the spatulas.
Where are the spatulas?
Or like, I remember there was this one time where people were like getting really upset because we couldn't figure out like where the salt packets were for like the French fries.
Yeah.
And we're just like dumping fries, and we're like, you're supposed to dump a bunch of unhealthy amount of salt and like toss it, right?
Yeah.
To season the damn thing. And we were just like, it's empty. Where's the salt? And so we have like two people in the back looking for like salt, and we're just like, oh shit, like did we forget to order more? Like, do we have to wait until next week? And no, it's just like someone just like put it behind like a box of sugars or some shit, and it's like, that's not where it goes.
Fair. So organized chaos would only work if you're just by yourself.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Where you know where you left it.
Yeah, because that person at McDonald's probably had organized it, but in their own mind without telling everyone else where they put their stuff.
Yeah. Which is kind of like one of the things that a lot of people, I think, have trouble learning, especially young graduates, right? Like if you haven't worked in like a team environment or like a fast-paced environment, they don't really know how important teamwork is and like how things have to be done when other people are involved, right? There's certain people that will kind of go and do their own thing, or they only play like solo sports, or like they don't get into team sports, and then they enter the workforce and they're just like, oh yeah, I can't just do whatever I want because there's certain systems in place to facilitate working with other people.
Oh, for sure. And we have this conversation all the time where, is going to a post-secondary worth it, or is it worthless? Because a lot of conversations around that is that, university degree is just a piece of paper. But I beg to differ as someone who loves school. When you're there, did you just call me a nerd?
What?
When you're there, you learn part of these skills. You learn how to work with other people. You learn how to critically think. You network. There's a lot of other benefits that come into play when you are in university outside of, I guess, just academics and a degree. So similarly, when you work, you start to learn a lot of other social skills that open up your mind to like, these are different ways that I need to adapt in the workplace, because this takes me back to my second job. So TLDR, I didn't work when I was in high school because in Asia, at least where I grew up, it's not normal for a student to work. You just go to school, that's your main focus, right? Yeah. Very different compared to like Western culture. So I didn't have my first job my first paying job till after I graduated university, which to a lot of you might be like, what? Like, I'm like, thank you to my parents because they paid for university and everything. But I was just, I did my blogging stuff, but I didn't work. So my second job, which is a job after I met you, husband, was at this media company. I'm not going to say it.
Are we not naming and
shaming? No, we're not naming. We're not naming and shaming. But it was at a media company. And they were a pretty big media company. I was so excited because I wanted to work in TV. But a core memory from that is that my manager was so mean to me. Like, looking back, not the best manager. Great person, not the best manager. He was so mean. And I remember like tearing up at my desk, like just being a young 20-year-old in her first real big girl job, being like, oh, okay, this is horrible. But from that experience, I learned a lot of things that I now bring to my life and my career. One of them is just being like, there are stupid questions you can ask. Like, always do your own research before you ask a stupid question. So, I mean, if anything I have to thank him for is that very important lesson of like, figure things out first before you start asking people questions.
Yeah, I think that's a great lesson that a lot of people need to learn at some point. Maybe the
Yeah.
way he delivered it was a
He
bit
could have been
like
nicer.
abrasive, but the funny thing is, I've actually been in that same situation too, where I remember like when I was just starting out being like struggling, and like one of my early like mentors in software development being like, just go and ask, right?
Yeah.
Like you tried it out for 30 minutes, you can't figure it out, just speed up the process. But then I think the key point was that like I tried for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? I tried to figure it out, and then it was just like no point struggling for an extra 4 hours, like making no progress, right? Like you kind of reach out for the knowledge bases that already exist. But then on the flip side, as I've gotten like into higher positions where now I'm doing the mentoring, it's always like, hey, like simple questions like, how do you do this? You're just like, oh, like, did you try Googling it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And now you would only ask that like if there's a habit of this person like constantly going for answers, where you're just like, this is like basic, so let me help you, but then like tell you, hey, like try searching it up, right? Like there
Yeah.
might be answers online for you where it'll be faster for you to get it rather than you like walking over and like
Yeah.
setting up a meeting. And then like from that note, it's just sort of like, oh, like eventually you need to kind of get to a point where you recognize that you have to figure shit out on your own. And of course, the training should kind of point you towards that habit as well.
Yeah.
Where it's like, try for 15 minutes. If you can't figure it out, then you come and talk, and then we figure it out together. Right.
Yeah. There's a very fine line between spoon feeding someone continuously in a job versus supporting, right? And I guess in that job, I had learned that lesson is that just because I'm not getting spoon-fed information and having my hand held doesn't mean that I'm not getting supported in a job.
Yeah.
And that was at that time, like now it's clear to me, like now when I look back, I'm like, that's common sense. But at that time, like I truly, honestly that was not even an option for me to be like, oh yeah, maybe I should just figure it out first before I go and ask everybody, like, hey, like, tell me this, tell me that, tell me this, right?
Yeah.
So definitely a key learning moment.
I feel like that's where the frustration of companies and managers hiring new graduates comes in, where, sorry, excuse me, I burped. It's that like, okay, the perception is that if you've gone through university, you've at least figured some of this out.
Yeah.
Which is, I think there's like two big distinctions I've seen in people that have worked part-time throughout university or worked on projects on their own and kind of like gotten the experience, so to speak, while educating themselves, versus somebody that's only done education. And there's very like consistently always that difference of like someone already kind of knows that they need to figure stuff out, or that like they know there's ways to do it without, not being so reliant, right? And then there's the others where they're just like, oh, I don't know how to do this, can you help me? Oh, I don't know how to do this, can you help me? And I think it's that latter part where people are like, you went through university, like why are you in this spot? Like, why are you like this?
Yeah.
Like, why haven't you kind of learned and become an adult, so to speak, to be ready for the workplace? And I think that's something that's probably my biggest complaint about universities is that, yes, there are group projects and like all that stuff, but it does not simulate the personal responsibility you have like as a person in the workforce.
Yeah, I mean, it just provides a platform for people to find more opportunities to do that. At the end of the day, it really is an intrinsic thing, right? Or I guess having friends who motivate you to find those opportunities to be better. Because like anything in life, you can give someone an opportunity. It's how they take that opportunity and utilize it that will make a difference, right?
Yeah.
And no two people are the same.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's kind of how you set yourself, especially in this economy where it's hard to find work or hard to keep work.
Yeah, I think this economy is very difficult, and I actually feel really bad for like the new graduates right now.
My brother's graduating.
Dude. I mean, it's just like we've seen situations like this in the past, like 2008 when the housing bubble crashed in the U.S. was obviously one where if you're just graduating, it's very different when you're trying to find work during that time versus when it's in a good time, right? So recognizing that it's a tough time for everyone looking for work right now, I think is really important to have. But obviously with these challenges though, I think there's a lot of like personal growth opportunities, or like where people say, reflecting back, they've taken a lot of lessons out of it. So something that I don't know if I should share, but so I was fired only once, and it was for like it was for like a kitchen job where I was just like, I just didn't have the right mentality to put in the work ethic for it. And also those guys are a little bit weird. Won't go too deep into it.
Yeah.
But Sam's been fired a whole bunch of times. So, but
I have been fired, I think, 4 to 5 times in my career, which is a lot.
Laid off. I think most of those are layoffs.
Oh, they were all layoffs.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess
except for 1 or 2.
No. They were all layoffs.
Oh, were
like
they
it was
all
all
layoffs?
without cause. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's not like I did something. Okay, to anyone who, if I ever decide to go back to a corporate workforce, I'm a great employee. I've only been laid off because of external factors, not because of me.
Yeah,
Let me
budget
just put that out
cuts
there.
and like changes in the company.
Yeah.
To be honest, going through something like that is probably so stressful and like irritating, because it feels like you're being thrown back like 10 steps when you've been working so hard to get to where you are. But I know we've discussed that, like, despite these things happening, you've actually taken a lot of opportunities to steer your, I guess, like personal career growth in a lot of different new opportunities. So, what was like a situation where, like a failure turned into something where you flourished from it?
Yeah, like, I mean, I am a very optimistic person, and so I always look at a door closing being a redirection versus like, the world is ending. So maybe it's also because I've never really placed a lot of my identity in my day job. I've never ever been someone, I don't know whether it's consciously or not, to have placed who I am as an individual or my value in the work, like my place of work, which I know a lot of people do, and I respect them for it. I just personally have never felt that way. And so despite being laid off 5 times in my career.
I don't think you've been laid off 5 times, right?
I mean, I'm not going to break it down, but I'll break it down for you later. I'm pretty sure it's been 4 or 5 times, at least 4 times in my career. I've never felt that the world was ending or that I was incompetent. I felt undervalued at some of those roles, but I don't know. I've always looked at it as redirection. Like, this part of my career is now closing, and I'm going to take this and find another way to flourish or to be successful. And that's always just been my mentality in life, because what else can you do? I read a quote from Beyonce once, and this is not a word for word, but I remember the gist of it, which was like, you can feel sad about yourself, about your circumstance. Feel sad. You should feel the emotions. Like, I've cried every single time I've got laid off. You've seen me cry before too. Even when I hated that job to my core, when I got laid off, I cried because I was sad and mad. I was smad.
Sammed. Smad.
I was
Smad is
sammed.
better, yeah.
But Beyonce wisely once said, you feel sad for a day and then you get over it and you move on. You pick yourself back up.
I swear that's not her quote.
It's not word for word.
No, what I mean is, I'm pretty sure she's just re-quoting
Oprah or something.
Yeah.
Sounds like an Oprah quote.
No, I mean, it sounds like something people would have said for thousands of years.
Yeah, well, whatever. But anyway, that's just has always been something I view as my strength. Like, Delulu is my Salulu. I know you hate this, but honestly, delusion has brought me through a lot of my life.
Okay, you're not delusional though.
Yeah. I mean,
I've seen you put a lot of effort into like learning new skills and improving yourselves and like all that stuff. And like a lot of what you've learned throughout these jobs, you've obviously carried over into your next one.
Yeah.
And there's no like hubris. You never go in being like, I'm too good for this. Right? Like,
except for the
I've
job that
never
we
heard
met
that.
at. I was too
okay.
good.
That
We were both
one
too
was
good.
an exception. Yeah. Yeah, that
That was the one job where we felt like we were too good for. But no, I appreciate that. I think it's definitely one of my biggest strengths, maybe being able to look at life and career like that, with every job that I've been laid off from or have just left because of another opportunity, I've never thought that it wasn't a good experience to learn something new. Like I've always brought that and been like, this has prepared me for the next level of where my career, my life is going to go. And it's very empowering, I guess, because I feel like I do flourish, I guess, every single time I have moved on or have been laid off from an opportunity. Because I don't think I would be who I am today without those experiences in my life.
So let's, I don't know, talk about something concrete.
Okay.
Like what is an actual thing where you have flourished after like a failure of that kind?
Yeah. Okay, well, let's go. I'll give you two examples. So during COVID, which was a global phenomenon that
Yeah, COVID sucked. I think everyone agrees.
yeah, it sucked, and I think it's one of those things where we can all have our collective trauma from it. Like that's a worldly experience. But anyway, during COVID, I got laid off from a job literally 2 weeks or so. Wait, no, I was going to start a new job. COVID happened. The office closed. It went fully remote. And that was when being remote was very new because no one's ever done it.
Yeah.
And then a few months after that, I was laid off because of, just like
Budget
COVID.
cuts, obviously. Yeah, with COVID.
And I was lost because I felt sad because I shouldn't have left the job prior. That's what I thought at that time. And I was like, oh, if I just stayed, I would be in much more stable position. But instead of, I did feel sad. But then after that, I was like, okay, what can I do now with all this time being at home? And I know people have built amazing businesses during that time. So I won't compare what I did to like what a lot of other people did. Like people became TikTok stars during that time, right? Made millions of dollars. I, on the other hand, I decided to learn about, drop shipping. I decided to learn about project management. I got a project management certification during that time. So I guess I utilized that time that I had off to just better my skills or to just learn something new. More recently, if you guys have been following along our journey or like my other social accounts, I was laid off from a job last year, which I don't really like, but we're just going to not dive into it. And I decided to go content creation full time. And I ended up working freelance full time, which
and freelance. The freelance thing, I think, has done like really well because you have done such a great job building up your network and people trusting you with your like expertise over the years that I think one of the things people say the hardest thing to find is clients, but I feel like you actually got a really nice head start on that front.
I did. And if you told me this like a few years ago, I would have been like, I don't think the freelance management life was for me, but I guess maybe it was the Delulu, or it was just, being magnetic to the experiences, like being open to opportunities or what have you, or like you said, just like being able to have built my network and just finding these opportunities. I was put in a place where I had a good flow of clients come in during my first month of just going full time. So, it's another example. Like I'm the happiest I've ever been right now, despite not having the stability of a full-time corporate position that I've had for the past 10 years. But again, like we've had this conversation, that's not really for everyone, right?
Everyone's path is different, yes.
Everyone's path is different, and not everyone feels like they want to thrive in this way. Like they want the stability of a stable 9 to 5. They don't want to be kind of thinking about flourishing in a different direction after they get laid off, right?
Yeah, like not everyone really wants to build their own thing. Sometimes, and I've always had this conversation with friends too, where it's just like, sometimes it's totally fine to have a 9 to 5 where you don't love the work, but you work to do something that you love.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like to fund that hobby of yours. And a big thing that a lot of people can probably relate to is like, you're working because you have a family that you need to keep alive because you love them, right? Sometimes it's not a glamorous job, But you need to, like, we all need to respect the fact that, you know, work is just sometimes the whole thing where people say, the company's a family and like we gotta all band together and like put extra hours in is total bullshit in my opinion. Like,
Yeah.
if my companies are like listening, you know, like please don't fire me. But but I think it's just like you hired me for my expertise and knowledge, and I will do that for you, and I will put 100% of my effort in that regards.
Yeah.
But like to expect to go beyond that would be unreasonable, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me flip the question back to you. Like, do you think you could look at life as like you would flourish if you were ever laid off from a job? Because you value a stable, like the stability of like a 9 to 5. Like you value, like for you, like you're kind of like you work to do the things that you love. Like you don't necessarily need to love the thing that you do, but you do enjoy your job.
Yeah, I do enjoy the work that I do. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it's hard to say like outright that I would flourish in that situation because like how would you ever really know? I think one thing that I can say for certain is that I'll get by. Like I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Because there have been moments in my life where I've taken like very drastic decisions to just switch directions.
Yeah.
Like, for example, before I got into software, I was working for the YMCA and I always thought like, oh, nonprofits and stuff like that. But then realized that I can't have a family with this like income, right? Like it's just, I don't want to live like that, right? It was a personal choice I made. So it was just like, I remember quitting, selling my motorcycle, selling all the gear, taking the insurance off the car, buying transit passes, and just like pulling all my investments and savings out to be like, I'm going to study for 4 months and just like go 100% all in. So I know that personality wise, like I do have that mentality to be able to do that. But I don't know. I would probably like take a week to like regroup myself though, right?
Yeah.
If that ever happened.
Yeah, like Beyonce, like, you know, feel bad, regroup, and then move on.
Still don't like that this is a Beyonce quote and not just like...
There is a strength and a beauty in fully trusting your gut or yourself to make a drastic decision. And I tell Albert this all the time, but when he was, because we were dating at the time when you were working at the YMCA, and you had told me, you were a manager at that time, and I was so proud of you. And you told me that you wanted to quit and you wanted to invest a huge chunk of money to do this software development program. And I was like, you know what? Like, I don't know if this is the right decision because you didn't have a lot of money at that time. You were saving. But I was like, if this is what you think you should do, go for it. I'll support you. But I don't know if I've ever told you, like internally, I was like, oh no.
No, you've
like,
told me.
Have I told you? Yeah, like internally, there was a big part of me who was really questioning
whether this guy sane.
Yeah, if you were sane, like you're about to go no work and spending this money that, you know, like you weren't making a lot of money. And I don't know, like, are you just doing this for fun? Cause, right? Because sometimes you say like, I'm just going to do this because it's fun and I'm challenging myself.
Sometimes.
That's fine. But you did. And like, look, you've changed your life 180 from where you were before to where you are now.
Yeah. I do want to be very clear though that absolutely it was not just my efforts that made it work out. It was a lot of luck. Timing in the industry. It was just like very, very positive in the industry.
It was,
right. That was like the tech boom at the time. And I made a lot of like really great friends who also helped kind of pull me along during that time. So you know, when I think it was Arnold Schwarzenegger when he's like giving a speech to a graduate class, where just like, you always have to remember that like a self-made man doesn't exist because you always have help. I think it's like very important to remember that like if you're in a position to help, then you should help. Whether that's transferring like knowledge or like mentoring or like helping someone out in different ways.
That reminds me of this really popular quote. You've heard it. It's like, if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. You know, and this is just like such a nostalgic moment, because when I was starting out in content creation, like as an influencer or whatever, it was, the industry at that time was very like me. Like, you would always gatekeep the people you knew. You would not be really friends with other influencers. You would always like look at people as like, what can I get from you? And it was not as giving and like relationship focused as it is now, which I'm so happy it's changed from that solo me. Like, if I tell you my secrets or we do work together, you'll steal that work from me, to like, let's do this together. Like, let's support each other. Let's be friends. Like, it's just changed so much from that to like being such a lonely profession to being such a community focused profession. It's like now such a beautiful community where some of my best friends are influencers, and we just like hang out together. And then yes, we do shoot and like do work together, but it's just more of a sharing is caring versus like, I'm just going to gatekeep all of this information to myself. Because we've started to realize that if we grow together as an industry, we get paid better and we get more opportunities versus the mindset before. So it's nice that it's kind of changed that way, but very proud of you for like what you've accomplished and like trusting your gut. Now, every time Elbert tells me that he wants to make a career move, I like kind of take a step back and go like, you know, you trust your gut. Like, you do it if you think that's
farmer.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate that though. Thank you for giving me the space to thrive. There's this new thing that we want to try out, which is our toasty take of the week. And let me just explain what a toasty take is, right? It might just be like our opinion or like a take in something, in anything about society or relationships or whatever we're talking about that you may not agree with.
Yeah.
Or that you do agree with, you know, like whatever. It's just an opinion piece, right?
Yeah.
So if we give it, you know, feel free to discuss. Maybe we're wrong, maybe we're not. You know, at this point, it's just kind of like our opinion on something. So
yeah, we're not putting our opinion on you. It's just our opinion. Sometimes our opinions are
could be
the
wrong
opposite.
And we change like over time.
Yeah, like
too.
a lot of the time, actually, our opinions are quite different. But what's your toasty? What is your toasty take for this episode?
Okay. So my toasty take is that I feel like everyone should work part-time or something early on in their years.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not talking about like child labor. I'm talking about like
the Shein factory.
yeah, like late teens, like, you know, if you're in like grade 11 or 12 in high school and going into university, I think it is actually very detrimental to go through all of higher education or those like later years without understanding any sort of work, how the money comes in, like as a paycheck, like that experience of getting that paycheck, and then understanding how to use that money, right? Like having responsibilities to take over some of your bills. And it can be something small like help your parents out and pay for your own phone bills, right? But then you get into the habit of it. And the reason why I say this is because I think there's a lot that school can teach you. I think there's a lot that school will not teach you simply because there's no need. I don't know if need's the right word, but like the necessity's not there, right? So I feel like if you are proactive and go chasing after like a part-time work for any sort of experience, then you will learn a lot that is not just strictly work related about yourself and about the world that you won't learn if you're just going through education.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest things that our communities and like societies are not doing very great at is giving those opportunities for the next generation and the younger groups. Because I think especially with this whole like AI thing, it's like in software you don't see a lot of juniors being hired. But like my argument always is like, what are you gonna do in like 10-20 years when all the seniors have like retired? Yeah, we're dead. You know, and the next generation needs to come in and like know and be trained and stuff, right? But if we're not proactively training them,
Yeah.
then like where do you go with it, right? You're not setting up the future generations for success.
Yeah.
So, but I understand it's a very complex like world out there, and there's no like easy answer. But I don't know. Sometimes forward thinking and making certain sacrifices early on, I think, is like very important for society and even just like our species as humans to like continue and thrive long term. It just has to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your toasty take?
My toasty take? I have a lot of toasty takes, but let me select one that would get me the most backlash. No, JK. I think my toasty take, this is purely from my personal opinion, working a 9-to-5 standard job is easier than building something of your own. And some people might not agree with that, especially, I guess, if you're looking at it from a more labor-intensive job. But I'm purely looking at it from like my experience and the mentality as well as the emotions that it takes for you to forego the stability, I guess, of a month-to-month paycheck and benefits and all that, and also just trying to build something that might not actually pay the pay the bills. I cannot speak.
Pills?
What pills are we talking about here?
Ibuprofen. Acetaminophen.
Yeah. But yeah, just not having the stability and not really knowing for sure if you will get rewarded for just taking a risk on yourself and your ideas is harder than going to work at a 9-to-5 where you clock in, you clock out, you know what you're getting paid for, and then you just go on with your day.
Yeah, I get it.
But it's not for everyone. And honestly, from my perspective, I wouldn't have it any other way.
I would say most entrepreneurs are a little bit crazy. So
They are. I am a little bit crazy. Am I crazy?
Yeah, I mean, you have some moments.
I'm a little bit cuckoo bananas, but I think you gotta be if you're gonna survive in this mentality. But I don't know. I mean, like, truthfully, like, I don't think I've ever been happier. Not stable, and I'm sure you know this, and I'm so grateful for your support, but I don't think I've ever been emotionally happier than where I am currently.
Yeah. I think the only thing I would say, though, is at a certain point in any business that you're trying to build, you got to realize when it might not work out.
You mean my Delulu? I can't just keep being Delulu?
I'm not being specific about your thing. I'm just saying, what is that fallacy? The sunken cost fallacy, right?
Yeah.
In any sort of thing, I feel like that everyone needs to be very aware of that.
Yeah.
Right. If the idea is bad and you realize it's bad after a while, then, taking what you learn and putting that into something new with your experience and knowledge that this idea was bad, so like let's try a better one, I think is like very important.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's wrap up. This episode has been a lot of technical issues, so many
technical issues,
mistakes. Hopefully we learn from them. It's possible that we don't, but who knows.
Well, thank you for watching. You can find us on the socials if you want to, or on Instagram. But give us a follow here on Spotify, or Amazon or Apple, whichever podcast streaming service you're listening to, because we would truly, truly, really appreciate the support. This is something new that we're doing for the past little bit, and we really do want to keep doing it. It's fun for us, but we also want people who are tuning in instead of us just speaking to each other. And
we like toasty take topics, so if you have one, let us know.
Yeah, drop us an email, leave a comment, find us on socials.
We have an email?
We do have an email.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I couldn't create this account without an email.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, bye.
Bye.